Let me ask you something simple. Why is your ex suddenly reaching out again? After 60, you've lived, lost, and learned. But now they're back, in quiet, careful ways. A short message, a shared memory, a birthday wish that feels warmer than it should. They don't say, "I miss you." They don't ask to come back, but something's there, and it's pulling at you. Hi, it's Vernon again. At our age, we've learned to spot real connection from passing emotion, most of the time. But when an old love reappears, it can shake even the steadiest heart. So, let's not tiptoe around it. I'm going to walk you through 7 real signs your ex might want you back, and what a clear-headed response looks like. No sugarcoating, no second guessing, just the truth laid out plainly. Because after everything you've been through, you deserve nothing less. And if you find something here that speaks to where you are, don't hesitate to subscribe to my channel. Not for me, but for you, so that whenever the heart has questions, you'll have a place to return to for honest answers. Now, let's take a deeper look at the first sign, the one that often shows up before you even realize what's happening. 1. They start reaching out just to check in. It begins small, a casual message, a quick call, an old photo they came across. On the surface, it looks innocent, even polite, but beneath it, there's something more deliberate. When someone re-enters your life with no real reason other than just thinking of you, it's rarely just about you. It's about them and what they haven't resolved. Plato once wrote that we can easily forgive a child who is afraid of the dark. The real tragedy is when adults are afraid of the light. And that fear, the fear of facing the full weight of one's choices, can echo through the years. Sometimes when your ex reaches out, it's not love guiding their hand. It's avoidance, regret, the kind that grows louder in the quiet of an empty room. They're not always seeking connection. They may be seeking distraction from the truth they've long kept at bay. And in doing so, they reach not for you, but for relief. It's important to know the difference. This is where discernment matters. After 60, you've seen enough to know that not every message deserves an open door. Some are echoes, some are questions, some are tests. So how do you meet that moment when the past knocks gently, but the consequences could echo loudly? Pause. Don't rush to interpret. Instead, ask yourself, does this contact bring me peace? Or does it stir up confusion? If it's the latter, respond kindly, but keep boundaries clear. You owe no one access to your peace just because they once had it. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do, for them and for yourself, is to let the silence speak. But what if you're wrong? What if it's not fear or distraction, but something real, steady, and quietly returning? What do you do when their interest doesn't fade, but grows? That's what we'll explore next. 2. They begin sharing personal things again. There's a shift. One moment, it's light conversation, and then suddenly they're telling you about their day, their health, their regrets, their dreams. They start opening the door again, slowly, not with grand declarations, but with subtle vulnerability. This isn't small talk anymore. This is emotional re-entry. In the language of connection, openness is rarely casual. When someone who once knew your soul begins peeling back their own layers again, it means something. Not always something you should act on, but something worth noticing. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And when someone starts speaking to you in the color of tenderness, it tells you what's been living in their mind. But here's the hard truth. Not every opening is an invitation. Sometimes people confide not because they want to rebuild something, but because they remember who once held their truth gently. You become, again, a safe place. But being someone's comfort doesn't mean you're meant to carry them. If you're finding this helpful so far, consider giving the video a like. It helps others find this kind of space too. So what should you do? Stay grounded. Listen, not just to their words, but to how those words sit in your body. Are you feeling pulled into old patterns, or are you being met with mutual presence? Are you being seen, or are you being used as a mirror for their own longing? You don't owe anyone emotional shelter unless you choose to offer it freely and from a place of strength. Emotional openness carries weight, but real intentions reveal themselves in action. Words can soothe, distract, even deceive, but behavior rarely lies. When someone begins to show up differently, more consistently, more intentionally, that's when the heart must listen with both wisdom and caution. So, what happens when it's no longer just what they say, but what they do? Let's look at that more closely. 3. They begin showing up in small, meaningful ways. Not with flowers, not with apologies, but with quiet consistency. They offer help before you ask. They remember the little things, the way you take your coffee, the day of your doctor's appointment. They don't just talk about the past, they participate in your present. These are not grand gestures, these are small anchors. At this point in life, we know that talk is easy. It's the showing up that costs something. And when someone starts offering their time and energy without expectation, it means something. Philosopher Albert Schweitzer once said, "Example is not the main thing in influencing others. It is the only thing." And in relationships, this is truer than ever. But let's be honest. Even good actions can come from unclear intentions. That's why it's important not just to ask what they're doing, but why. Are they offering support as a way to rebuild trust or to relieve their own guilt? Are they showing up with patience or with silent pressure? The heart is tender after 60. It has survived too much to be pulled into someone else's emotional confusion. The real question isn't what you should do, it's whether their actions align with the kind of peace you've spent years building. Receive kindness without obligation. Be grateful, yes. Be warm if it feels right, but keep your center rooted. Just because someone steps into your life again doesn't mean they've earned a place in it. Value what they do, but measure it by how it makes you feel. lighter, clearer, steadier. Because presence without pressure is one of the clearest signs of love, and anything less than that, you've outgrown it. But what happens when they start shifting the spotlight off themselves and shine it quietly toward your life again? We'll talk about that next. 4. They start asking about your life again. Why now? After all this time, are they suddenly interested in the details of your day? Not out of politeness, but with attention. They remember your sister's name. They ask about your doctor's appointment. They want to know how you're sleeping. At first, it feels thoughtful. Then, it feels pointed. Because attention, when it's consistent and specific, becomes something else entirely. Emotional positioning. In modern relationship psychology, there's a term, bidding for connection. It's when someone sends a signal, not for information, but for emotional re-entry. According to Dr. John Gottman, couples who remain close long-term respond positively to 86% of emotional bids. Your ex might not be building a friendship. They might be measuring how open your door still is. Simone Weil once said, "Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity." But attention, when given with agenda, loses its purity. It becomes strategy, a means, not an offering. Sometimes people aren't listening to hear you. They're listening for an opening, a vulnerability, a place where the wall has thinned. In that way, attention becomes a scalpel, gentle, precise, and capable of cutting deep without leaving a mark. When someone notices details they once ignored, it's not always a sign of growth. It may be a tactic of re-entry, subtle, calculated, designed to test how much of your heart remains unlocked. True care doesn't tiptoe in through cracks. It stands at the front door, honest and whole. And if they can't do that, if their presence requires subtle manipulation to gain ground, then it isn't generosity, it's rehearsal. That's the risk, mistaking curiosity for care. Ask yourself, are they asking about your life to support it or to reattach themselves to it? Are their questions creating warmth or gently reopening a wound? You don't have to question every gesture, but you must stay honest about your own response. Does their interest energize you, or does it drain you with the weight of what might return? It's not cruel to protect your space. It's wise, especially when someone is knocking, not with clarity, but with questions. Now, what happens when those questions shift towards something more daring, like asking if you're seeing someone new? That's where we'll go next. 5. They ask if you're seeing someone new. Let's not dress this up. When someone from your past asks, "Are you seeing anyone?" they're not making small talk. They're scanning for something, a gap, an opportunity, or worse, a threat. You might have lived quietly for years. Maybe you finally made peace with how things ended. Then, out of the blue, a question arrives, casual in tone, but heavy in implication. It's rarely about celebration. It's not, "I hope you're happy." It's more like a knock on the door of your progress, asking, "Can I still walk in?" It reminds me of something Viktor Frankl once wrote. Love is the only way to grasp another human being in the innermost core of his personality. But grasping is different from holding. One nourishes, the other clings. When your ex asks if you've moved on, the real inquiry isn't about your joy in it. It's about their absence in it. And that matters. There's a phenomenon in relationship psychology called romantic surveillance. It sounds cold, but it's deeply human. Checking in, watching from afar, reaching out when we feel replaced. Not to reconnect meaningfully, but to reestablish a position, a sense of relevance. Often it comes not from love, but from ego. The fear of becoming a side note in someone else's story. You may think, well, maybe they're just curious. But curiosity, when fueled by control, becomes intrusion. And age doesn't always tame that instinct. Even after 60, even after everything, some people still confuse affection with entitlement. They want to know not because they care who holds your hand now, but because they're shocked it's not theirs. So when that question comes, don't just hear it. Weigh it. Does it come with respect or with possessiveness? Is it followed by support or subtle sabotage? And most importantly, what does it awaken in you? Does it stir warmth, or does it unsettle the stillness you fought hard to build? You don't owe your past an update, not unless it's part of your future. Let your boundaries be a quiet act of self-respect, because if someone only values you when you're at risk of slipping away, that's not devotion, it's desperation. Now, let's talk about the moment when subtlety fades and the words you've been expecting finally arrive. Direct, unfiltered, a second chance laid bare.
6. They say it outright. They want you back. There are moments in life when silence ends and clarity begins. No more hints, no more sidelong questions. Just the words, spoken plainly. I want another chance. It's easy to think this is the moment you've been waiting for, the missing piece, the confirmation. But when an ex says they want you back, that is not the end of the questioning. It's the beginning. Desire is not the same as readiness. And wanting you is not the same as being ready to love you well. People often return not because they've changed, but because the past has started to feel safer than the unknown. And nostalgia can wear the mask of clarity, but underneath, it's still a longing for comfort, not truth. Philosopher Alain de Botton wrote, "We don't fall in love with someone because they are perfect. We fall in love with how they make us feel about ourselves." So when someone says, "I want you back," ask, are they drawn to you or to the version of themselves they remember being with you? There's a difference, and it's not small. This is where emotional maturity must rise above emotional momentum. Because the words, "I want you back," have gravity. They pull on memory, on dreams, on old hopes. But they should never pull harder than your commitment to peace. So before you let their words anchor themselves in your heart, ask the real questions. What are they offering this time that they couldn't before? Have they healed? Or are they hoping you'll do the healing for them? Is this about us, or about them not wanting to be alone? A second chance is not a reset. It's a reckoning. It means bringing everything, the beauty and the brokenness, into the light. And unless both of you are ready to name it all, face it all, and work through it with eyes open, it's not a second chance. It's just a slow repeat of the first ending. You don't need someone who simply wants you. You need someone who's done the work to be ready for you. And if they truly have, then you'll feel it not just in their words, but in how your soul settles in their presence. Let's turn to the final sign, one that isn't about them at all. It's about you.
7. You realize you've changed, and what you want has too. Not every sign that something is shifting comes from the other person. Sometimes it comes quietly from within you, and it doesn't announce itself. It just settles in like a knowing. You begin to feel it when their presence, once so urgent and defining, no longer stirs the same ache. When the hope of reconciliation becomes a choice, not a craving. When your boundaries feel less like defenses and more like clarity. It's here that the final sign emerges, not in their actions, but in your reflection. You've changed, maybe slowly, maybe painfully, but undeniably. It's tempting to measure the value of a past relationship by the size of the longing it leaves behind. But that's not always truth. That's just memory doing its best impersonation of meaning. Philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." And in love, especially later in life, we're often tempted to revisit what's behind us in search of meaning, when perhaps the meaning is that we grew beyond it. When your ex comes back or hints that they want to, it stirs more than emotion. It stirs identity. It asks, are you still who you were back then? Do you still want what that version of you wanted? Or have your needs evolved into something steadier, quieter, more honest? If this resonates with where you are right now, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment, not for closure, but as a way of honoring how far you've come. Sometimes your words might be what helps someone else breathe a little easier. That's the deeper truth here. Sometimes the biggest sign they want you back is the moment you realize you no longer want them in the same way. Not out of bitterness, not out of pride, but out of peace. Peace with who you are now, peace with the journey it took to get here, peace with knowing that some loves were meant to end not as failures, but as teachers. If they return, it doesn't mean you must reopen the door. It might simply mean you've done the healing and they're just now catching up to what you've known for a while. You're not who you were, and that's not a tragedy. It's a triumph. The final sign is not in what they do, but in how you now respond. And if your response is no longer entangled in old emotion, but grounded in new understanding, well, that's not just a sign your ex wants you back. That's a sign you've finally come back to yourself. We've walked together through the subtle signals, the silent messages, the heavy questions, each one pointing not just to whether your ex wants you back, but to who you've become in the process. And maybe that's the most important discovery of all. These signs weren't just clues about them. They were mirrors held up to you. They asked, are you still searching for something that's already passed? Or are you ready to honor what's arrived? Your clarity, your peace, your growth. After 60, love wears a different face. It's not always loud or fast. It's steady,
honest. Sometimes it's knowing when not to go back, even when part of you still wonders. If today's reflection has given you even one moment of pause, one new question, one sense of calm where there was once confusion, then this was time well spent. And if you ever find yourself here again, standing at the edge of your past and wondering what it means, you'll have something you didn't have before, yourself, whole and unshaken. If something in this resonated with you, feel free to subscribe, not just to this channel, but to your own inner wisdom. Because every time the heart asks hard questions, you deserve answers that don't just soothe, but strengthen. And I'm Vernon. Thanks for watching my video. The moment when subtlety fades and the words you've been expecting finally arrive. Direct, unfiltered, a second chance laid bare.